Well, I took a look on it while just waiting. I was looking at what the free PlayStation games were of the month, and they actually kind of had some good ones for once. I mean, they had Batman, which obviously we already had, but they had the Deus Ex game on there. I'm like, oh, that's cool, because most of the time, Sarah says my PlayStation's out of memory for it. Well, that's nice.
True time. I actually never finished the last episode of the Batman Telltale game.
Nor did I, because I don't know. I think it was just the wait in between. I just kind of. It probably would have been best if I would have just waited, literally till they were all out, and then played them in one fell swoop.
It's one of those things. I mean, it wasn't like I had problems with the story. I thought that was kind of clever how Vicky Vale was the bad guy. And even some of the ways they got characters in there without making them too much, and how it was actually an M-rated and R-rated Batman story. I thought that was interesting. It was one of those things where I don't know. I just never got around to finishing the last episode. I just never did. It's not like it was bad. It's weird. It's just like Dark Knight Master Race comes out, and like, well, it's Batman. I gotta read it. It's Batman. It's the next Frank Miller book. It's so important. I don't care if it took forever. I gotta know. And then it's like, well, this is not the comics. Like, oh well, I don't know. It's kind of weird how that's the only one where I'm just, because usually if I'm following a Batman story, I want to know. But then again, it's loosely an origin story, so I think I've seen that a lot too.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. There, you got your recorder going, just to double check.
I got my recorder going.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, well, hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan. And I know this is the first episode of the new year, but I'm thinking maybe probably say this off the air, but we're already here. What the fuck? Maybe next episode we'll do the favorite thing.
I was gonna say that to you too during this one. It's funny. Everybody keeps wanting to jump on that. Like they come with me like, dude, when are you doing your movie countdown? Can I be on that one? I'm like, well, maybe. Whenever we have somebody else on there, it just makes for the longest fucking episode. Remember that time that me, you, and Marley, I think we did 15 movies. It was like a mistake to have that many people at once because the episode was like 2 hours and 50 minutes by the time it's all said and done.
And everybody always has that one movie that makes everybody else go, wait, what? Or what the fuck is that doing that high? Or what's that doing that low? It always starts that conversation.
Exactly. Well, this kind of goes into our like movie list, not necessarily, but there was a movie I watched yesterday. I saw it come up on Hulu or something like that, and I was like, this is a 2017 movie? Like, where the fuck was this in theaters? And it was a Bruce Willis movie, so maybe Bruce Willis is at that point of life where he doesn't go to theaters anymore. I don't know. But it also had John Goodman in it, too. And it was like, it was weird. It's called Once Upon a Time in Venice.
I think I heard about this. I want to say I saw a trailer a while back.
Yeah, but it was like, well, also another one, too, is like, remember they had all those trailers for the Bruce Willis Death Wish remake, and then all of a sudden it said it was coming out in November, and then never came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the fuck happened there too. I don't know, is Bruce Willis like getting like shunned from the theaters? I mean, it's Eli Roth, so maybe he had like an issue. Eli Roth, it sounds bad, but like the last 3 movies Eli Roth's had, it's always like, here it's coming, and then something comes up. Either like with
Green Inferno.
Yeah, well, Green Inferno had an issue where like it was supposed to come out like like in November or something like that, and then next thing you know, it didn't come out till like May, and it didn't get a theater release, and so on. But then also, what the fuck, Hostel 2, like some like idiot released like a partial version of that movie first, so that kind of screwed him over. So it's like seems like every time he does a movie now, it's like something happens. So I don't know if something happened with Death Wish that I don't know about, but it was just kind of weird that just it's like where's that at?
Well, plus it's also, I noticed it's probably harder for him to get work because I noticed slow burn torture movies don't sell as well as they used to. I know that's not what Die Hard is, but that's what Green Inferno is. And when people think of Eli Roth, they think of Hostel,
Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever, like these long, like drawn out, gory movies. And I know he likes a bunch of other stuff because I've heard him in other conversations, and he'll go into detail about like, oh, I love teen comedies. And then, he was doing Death Wish, which for me, it was one of those things where I was just like, I mean, I would have seen it, but at the same time, my initial reaction was, well, it seems kind of redundant because every urban revenge movie is essentially ripping off Death Wish. So,
well, the way I look at it is, one, it's Eli Roth. I fucking love Eli Roth. I don't care what the fuck he does. I'm down for seeing his movies. But 2, it's Eli Roth not doing a horror movie. And And I think that was almost really interesting too. And I think he could do a sweet take on it. Because the thing about Death Wish, yeah, it is one of those stories like it's a very like historical important movie. It's not really the greatest movie, but it's very historically like important. But it's also one of those movies where, though that genre's been kind of like overused, you know, the ultra revenge movie, it's not that you can't go into it and make something real fresh and really cool out of it. And I think there's also with Bruce Willis being in it too, it sounded like that was a cool idea.
Well, he is the Charles Bronson of his age, kinda, and of his time. But the other thing I think is Bruce Willis, even though he's this icon, I mean, let's stop and think. I mean, if we think hard enough, I'm sure we can pull out a couple of things. But what was the last big theatrical movie Bruce Willis is in that was starring him, where he wasn't the main character going, "Hey guys, what's up?" Where he was the star.
So where you mean where he was not Die Hard 5?
Well, he was Die Hard 5, yeah, where he was not Die Hard 5, he was the star of Die Hard 5,
yeah.
But even though his kid was along for the ride. I mean, what comes to mind is there's the G.I. Joe movie, but he was just there for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not going to, he wasn't the star of that one. Well, that is true. It's like Bruce Willis is in stuff, but like, yeah, it's kind of weird how some of his movies, yeah, I don't know if he's like nearly as big, because there was that period about around the same time as Die Hard 5 where Bruce Willis seemed to be in a bunch of movies all of a sudden. It's like, oh, he's back. He's in Looper. He's in all these things like that. And then, all of a sudden, it just kind of like, at some point, it's like he almost just kind of fell off the radar, but like, not with like any reason. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger, because it seems like the last about 3 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies haven't gone to theaters either. So I don't know if it's one of those ones if those guys just finally got to a point where they're just at a certain age range where they're like, well, you know, it's not that he can't be in a movie, but it's not like he's selling movies like he once was.
Well, actually, I forgot about Looper. You know, I really liked that movie a lot. He almost shares that movie with Third Rock. Forgot the guy's name.
Yeah,
Just Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, like that's starring enough. I mean, I wouldn't say that's, you know, they're the 2 main characters.
Well, plus there's also not just Kevin Smith, because I know we talk about Kevin Smith a lot on the show, but there's a lot of other people who are talking about how, like, he's just hard to work with. I mean, that's the reason he wasn't in Expendables 3. That's also, he was in some Woody Allen movie, or he was going to be in a Woody Allen movie, then he got fired. And I think he was on a Broadway stage play, and, like, so redundant. Broadway stage play? As if Broadway does anything else? No.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, he was in a Broadway play, and he got the boot on that. So.
Well, this Once Upon a Time in Venice movie, you got to check it out. I thought it was really fun. And it had stuff in it that I would never expect to see. Here's my selling line to this movie. Would you expect to see Bruce Willis skateboarding naked at age 70?
No, but that's... Literally takes balls. Literally.
That's what I thought too. It was like all of a sudden, like the movie starts off and it's like Bruce Willis is giving this like speech to a bunch of like 10-year-old kids in Venice at the skate park of like, don't fuck up. You know, he's like, I mean, I was young. You know, I smoked marijuana. Next thing it led to was cocaine. Then you got hookers about 3 times a week, and he just goes on this long speech. There's just like these 10-year-old kids looking at him. He's like, just telling you not to fuck up. And after his whole speech, he's like, let's go skateboarding. And he grabs a skateboard, and obviously it's probably like a stunt double because it's from behind. I'm like, I don't know what it is. It's weird to picture. I never in my entire life pictured Bruce Willis fucking skateboarding. But he fucking jumps into like the pool and just keeps going. It's just like, oh, well, that's a different take on it.
Is he a straight edge? Is he straight edge or something like that?
No, I wouldn't say so at all. He's just this. He's a detective in Venice. Kind of like a hired one. Then he's got sort of his nerdy like buddy, and he's sort of like narrating through the movie, like, oh,
Venice Beach or Venice?
Venice Beach in California, not right. Italy. But
I was gonna say, what the fuck's he doing talking to a bunch of like little like Italian boys about skateboarding?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that big there? Shit.
But and then it's got John Goodman in it, and John Goodman's like his buddy, and it's like he's had this like hard divorce. So things are like, he's like, I got this surf shop. And it's weird to picture. It's like, okay, now picture John Goodman as a surfer. Like a pro surfer. Like just who has a surf shop now. He's like, the wife's taking everything from me. It just, it's just going down the drain. This is all I got left, my surf shop.
It's literally that part like in Cool Runnings when John Candy, he's all like, look at me then. The camera kind of like unfocuses back on his reflection. Like, look at me now. Just how like sad it is.
But yeah, and that's all. I mean, it's got a bunch of like weird, like little cameos in it. It's got fucking Shooter McGavin's in it for a moment. It's got fucking Cal Penn in there too. It had what's his name? Jason Momoa plays not really like the bad guy, but I guess sort of the villain. He plays like this Mexican gangbanger guy that like Bruce Willis and him have to go back and forth. And it's totally one of these like it's almost like a Tarantino-esque movie, like a little bit more comedy, but it has this kind of story. Like here's this detective guy, and now he has to owe money to one guy, but then he borrows money from somebody else, and then in this process, he kind of keeps going back and forth, like getting money from different places and coming together in the long run. And the whole point is he has this dog that he fucking loves, and whatever. And somebody steals the dog, and he's fucking pissed. He's like, "This is my favorite fucking dog ever." So that's like the whole kind of drive of the movie. But it was fun. It was funny. It had cool action in it. Had cool characters in it, and it was just like it was different too at the same time. It was just like had things you didn't expect. And I like towards the end, like. John Goodman's like, "Oh, I got nothing left. The wife took it all. She took my surf shop and everything." And Bruce Willis like, "Well, you want to come on and help me get my dog back?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't got fucking anything to do." He's like, "It's fine." And it's like they open up these guns. He's like, "Oh, this is fucking awesome." And just like takes some guns and everything like that. He's got like, "I got nothing to lose."
I'll have to check that out. You said it's on Hulu?
Yeah, I saw it on Hulu there. And I was just, as I said, it was a 2017 movie. So it's like, where the fuck did this go? Like... It felt like a movie that, like, why, like all those actors in it, like, how could that not be a fucking, like, major release? But I think nowadays, too, that's just, like, I mean, I know at the end of the day, you can cut some cost by not doing a theatrical release. You know what I mean? Because you don't got to advertise, you don't got to do that. You can just kind of go, let's just whip this movie up on, I don't know where the fuck you would do it at, like, on the internet, and we'll just sell it that way, and that will just be how we do it. Because maybe it's, like, only, like, I don't know, $15 million movie, $20 million movie. I'm not too sure, but you know what I mean? Because you don't have to advertise for it, because that does cost a lot of money and, all that stuff.
I think that's why we got so many things on streaming. You could probably just, like, audience a lot of times knows about it. I mean, it could definitely cost something to throw, like, a 15-second ad in front of a YouTube video. But after a while, though, I think people hear enough about it on streaming, so they can kind of takes care of itself. But I will say, I saw a movie on New Year's Eve. Actually, I didn't really go out and party or anything. I just went with my friend. Actually, I want to get this out of the way before I forget. So about like a month or so ago, I said I was doing a lot of stuff with my friend David on his channel, Digitally Twisted Review, and he talked about how he just like hated Star Wars and he ripped it apart. And
did you see it a second time?
He saw it a second time. He still didn't change his. I don't know if he saw it a second time. He doesn't like it. But anyway, it's whatever. I'm gonna. We both had like long, calm discussions about it. We don't agree on it, but whatever. It's he was doing a parody, and he wanted me to be Luke in the parody, and he wanted Luke to be drunk. And ironically enough, as it turns out, if you've been watching or listening to this show long enough, you know that we used to do this thing called Drunk Batman. It's essentially kind of a spiritual successor to Drunk Batman to some extent, but with Luke Skywalker. Yeah, I wasn't even trying to make it happen that way. It just sort of happened that way. And I know every so often someone says, "When's the next Drunk Batman? When's the next Drunk Batman?" We honestly don't know. It's going to be a minute. It takes us a minute to animate it. We got a bunch of other things going on, so... But if you want something where it's kind of like, all right, well, you get that kind of character, but as Luke Skywalker, we did one of that where I'm on a beach and then like just drinking away my problems, and then we filmed another one a little bit ago, which I don't know when that's up, but yeah. So,
nice. So check that stuff out.
Yeah, but anyway, Jenny, and myself went to go see The Shape of Water on New Year's Eve, and that was a really good movie. I'm going to say this right now. Sure, shit ain't for everybody, but that is a really good movie.
Is it like Creature from the Black Lagoon meets Swamp Thing? That's what it looked like to me.
Well, essentially, it's this is where it's going to scare some people off. It's a love story. It's a love story.
That's why I say the Swamp Thing part, because that's what it reminds me of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, or Beauty and the Beast, yeah. It's
Beauty and the Swamp Thing.
It takes place. It's kind of like a little in the late 50s, early 60s, somewhere around there. He's like a Black Lagoon creature, and a lot of the movie, the thing's just in a tank, and she sees it. So she's spoilers ahead for the movie. So she's just this lady who's a mute, and she has these scratches on her neck, and she's just some lady who cleans up this, top secret or like a top secret facility.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they get is a swamp thing. Not a swamp thing, like a black lagoon creature. Fishman type thing. Looks a lot like Abe Sapien from Hellboy. Ironically enough, it's the same director. But she, after a while, forms a bond with the thing because she can't talk. This thing can't talk. She kind of teaches it sign language. They torture the thing. Michael Shannon is this really weird, creepy, some kind of agent, some kind of enforcer of some sort who has to keep an eye on the thing and all that. And over the time, we see her slowly bond with this thing, and then she ends up with the help of I'm forgetting her name, but she was the black lady in Snowpiercer, who was going after her son. She helps her get the thing out of there, and from there it becomes a little bit more of her trying to hide this thing, and she develops more of a bond with it, and yes, they end up fucking. That was the thing I wasn't sure about in the movie. I was like, are they just gonna have some kind of weird spiritual little bond and they get each other? I'm like, oh no, they fuck. But ironically enough, though, the movie actually, here's the thing on an R-rated Guillermo del Toro movie, they kind of walk this weird balance between whimsy, magic, and really like harsh violence and shit you didn't really expect with the rest of it. Because there's this whole part where she even, kind of, some people were kind of rolling their eyes at it, but I liked it because they get across that, she's a mute, she can't talk, and she's looking at the monster at some point. She's best friends with this old gay guy who lives next door to her, and they always watch musicals together. I don't know what musical it is, but she's watching, at some point she's looking at the monster, it zooms in on her face, and she actually literally starts singing "You Will Never Know How Much I Love You." It's all black and white. They have this orchestra behind them. They're doing this dance on this stage. It's really shot like an old 1950s, early 1960s. It's in her head. This part's in her head. So it's one of those kind of, so it has some of that kind of stuff. It has a lot more of that kind of like, cutesy kind of sweet moments like that, but then you also get a moment where Michael Shannon gets his fingers bitten off, sewn back on. They're slowly starting to get gangrene and black. He just gets mad, just rips his own fingers off, shoots a dude in the face, and he lives. And he just grabs the guy by the hook of the hole in his mouth and drags him while he interrogates him. So it's like that. I like that weird contrast right there. Those things that you don't think you'd see together in the same movie.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I've been kind of waiting for that movie to kind of come out, and I haven't seen it in any nearby theaters yet. But it looked like a cool one. It's weird because they play the trailers like the living daylights out of it, but for some reason it's like, it's weird to play the trailer and then not have the movie come out. I always think it's like, what the fuck was the point of that?
Yeah, no, it was I really liked it, and there's a lot more going on about it. I'm just more talking about the contrast of the different things in the movie, but as far as it's not really much of an action movie. I will say the middle feels like it slows down a little bit, but once it gets going, it really gets going. And plus, it also has a little bit it kind of reminds me a lot of BioShock. Like, this could almost take place in the world of BioShock.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I didn't expect it as an action movie. It looked totally like, just like it had a monster in it, but it was more of a drama.
It's definitely more of a drama fantasy. And if you like it more for the artistic aspect, I'm going to say, yeah, I was kind of going there with total, like artsy fartsy kind of vibe, but there is still enough in there with I don't know, I think it's a good movie. I'm not sure everyone's gonna like it, but I really liked it a lot.
Well, I always like Guillermo del Toro. Like, whatever he does, I'm always kind of behind. It's like, yeah, that always looks like a cool idea. I mean, really, the one I'm looking most forward to is Pacific Rim 2. It just looks like fucking like as cool as can be.
Is he directing that?
Yeah, he is, and I think he's still writing it too. There might be some, but it's just like one of those ones. Like Pacific Rim 1 was one of those movies that. The more that I watch Pacific Rim 1, I'm like, oh, that movie's so fucking good. It's like a perfect film. It's like, so the second one looks even more badass. It's just like, let's get fucking 5 robots together and everybody's fucking throwing punches and it's going to be just like Gundam Wing. Yeah. Well, did you see the new Ridley Scott movie?
All the Money in the World?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get a chance for that one.
Oh, that one was pretty darn good. I like that quite a bit. I mean, it was totally, it's like a ransom movie. It's like one of those genres. Like, I mean, how many different ways can you do a ransom thing? But I thought that it just had enough, like, a little bit of comedy in it and just kind of, like, based on a true story. And, of course, Marky Mark. You always got, like, Marky Mark.
Oh yeah, he is in that. I totally forgot. I remember seeing a trailer for it once, and I'm like, oh, that's out. Okay.
Yeah, it's worth going to see. It's not like one of those movies where it's like, oh, I gotta throw this one on all the time, But it's still Ridley Scott. It's still a cool movie. Another director that I always like to just kind of check things out of.
Yeah. No, it looked good to me. It's one of those things where uh, I don't know. Now just movies kind of get by me a little quicker. For a second, I didn't think I was even going to see The Shape of Water. I just kind of more lucked out on that one. But yeah, is that one? Is it kind of one of those things where? Because I actually looked a little into the story, the actual just I'm more not too deep. I just looked at the Wikipedia article on the actual story, and it seemed to be just kind of like they they managed to get the guy, and yeah, he lost his ear, but whatever, it's all good. And I just kind of read it like, wow, that didn't take too long to read. They stretched this thing out to 3 hours. I'm sure they go into a lot of intricacies in the movie that maybe Wikipedia skipped. Or is it a very simple like, the guys trying to kidnap him weren't that smart. They didn't really have that good of a plan, or
No, they had a pretty good plan. It's just like like the whole point is like the mom's like, what the fuck? Like they got my grandson, but I already got a divorce from the family, so I'm not really part of it. And the only thing she did, she didn't want any of the money. She just wanted the kids or whatnot. And then there's like the Getty guy. So of course, the second that the kid gets captured, she has to go. She's like, well, I don't have fucking $17 million. I got to go talk to fucking Grandpa Getty again and try to get some money back. And of course he's like, well, I'm not fucking spending money on that. He's like, but you got all the money in the world. I was like, yeah, but if I spend it here, the next 14 grandchildren are gonna be, have problems going on now. So he's like, I'm not fucking paying for that shit. And he's just kind of like notorious for like bargaining, like even like the most like cheapest thing, like he would haggle over $10. Like he's that kind of guy, which obviously maybe
the worst kind of person in the world.
That's probably how he got to having so much money, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I get the point of like not just slap it. Even though you have $17 million, you're not just gonna slap it down because then next thing you know, more people be like, oh well, that was fucking easy. You want to be at the end of the day, people are like, well, fuck, I'm not gonna try to steal this guy's grandchildren. He's like, he won't even do anything for it. And like they just keep going on, and of course, like there's one guy who's holding like the kid. He's like kind of like the nice guy, like almost like taking care of. He's like, I kidnapped you, but I'm kind of here to protect you a little bit more from everybody else because these other Italian gangsters, you can't trust those guys, And as things goes on, yeah, it's like he gets his ear cut off and whatnot, and so on. He's like, hey, they're gonna cut his hand off, or his dick off or something like that. But I'm the one who said the ear, so you should be fucking grateful.
Does that guy die?
I can't remember if that guy does die in the end, but no, like it's actually the movie's pretty accurate to like the real thing. I mean, they probably like emphasize things a little bit more and so on. Then Marky Mark's kind of like he's the head security for Getty, so he's pretty much that's like put on the case in a sense. That's about as much he's doing. So he's helping out the wife, and they get they go from like bargaining the thing down from $17 million, to eventually like 3.2. Or so, and then they finally go to pay it, but yeah, I know it's still kind of an interesting story. I mean, it's one of those like ransoming ones, but yeah, it was just interesting, and just the Getty character himself, just being this kind of like just rich guy who just didn't really care, and just it's almost ones like he's kind of like a bad guy, douchebag rich guy, but you almost kind of like admire his like tenacity all at the same time too.
Well, I mean. If you work in retail or any kind of customer service long enough, you'll come across some rich fuck with you'll come across some motherfucker with a polo shirt, Rolex, and they'll be like, hey, this seems a little steep right here. Just like, motherfucker, you could afford it.
Yeah, exactly. Because here's the thing. The guy who comes dressed as a hobo doesn't say anything. He just pays the price. But...
yeah, and I get that's how a lot of times those people get ahead, but it's just like, fuck you. I'm playing by your rules, and I ain't fucking budging, motherfucker. If I kidnapped your kid right here, you play the same fucking ball right now. You want to try to you wouldn't like, I'm not paying him, so I'm not lowering the price. I didn't say that to him, but yeah.
And
I didn't say that shit. And
also too, like the kid that got captured, that was his favorite grandson. So
that was his
shit.
favorite.
If you were like the one who was not his favorite grandson, oh my god, you'd be fucked.
Marky Mark, don't go help him out. Just still here. I got some important things for you to do. Like what? I don't know. Alphabetize my razors. Okay. All right, done. What now? I don't know. Fuck. To fix what? Do my laundry. Well, I'm actually your security. I fucking pay you. All right.
And how this guy stayed so rich is what he did is he took all the money he made from like, well, he pretty much bought lots of that oil area in the Middle East when they said they couldn't drill in that area, but they knew there's a ton of oil. He was the guy that did that. And then after that, he took all his money and he put it into his own fake charity, so he didn't have to pay taxes on it. But he couldn't like technically take the money out because of that standard. So what he would do is he would use it to invest in physical items like paintings and so on.
Oh, this guy just sounds like, I don't really know much about him. I know the name, but just one of those old-timey rich motherfuckers you just fucking hate.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like the Rothschilds or some shit like that.
That's what I mean. It's like it's a mixture. It's like he's not a good guy, but also at the same time you kind of like can admire like some of the things he has too. It's like it's a halfway point, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, at the same time, like, there is something, because I don't think he was a guy he's not like he started off fucking rich. He, like, worked his way through different ways. So, for somebody to kind of, like, snaggle their way through like that and to become the richest guy at the moment, like, that is kind of impressive.
Well, there's also, I don't know, that is impressive. I'm not going to deny that, but, I don't know, I'm more impressed by someone like Elon Musk, so... He may try to destroy the world and conquer us all. He might be the closest. I don't know if he is more closer to Tony Stark or Lex Luthor. But, got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, like, just almost like, there's just something about, like, even, like, bad people. It's almost like people that, like, conquered, like, giant lands and stuff like that back in the olden days. You're kind of almost like, though those people are kind of total douchebags, you almost got to give them kind of credit. It's like, that's kind of impressive still at the end of the day. It's kind of impressive.
No, you do got to give him credit for that. You do. It's just, I think when you see it's just the aesthetic look of it. Just the stereotypical, like, angry old white dude pulling up in a Porsche who's just, mad because, he has $4 billion rather than $8 billion, that kind of shit.
Well, that's how this movie, he's like, oh, I never have enough. He's like, and Marky Mark's like, dude, you just said you got fucking profits off the thing. He's like, yeah, but, I just still not enough. Not there yet. So you could tell, and the whole point too is like, almost like, I don't know if this was like a movie thing more than like real life, but it was almost like he's like, well, I'll pay the ransom, but you got to sign all the kids over to me. He's like, I want them all the kids. They're my blood, my children. You are just the husk that birthed them.
Does he say that?
He doesn't use those words, but he does go like he wants the kids. It's almost like. He is literally the
ultimate... You're the birthing pod.
He is like trying to be the Pokemon master of like the 70s. Like, he's got to catch them all.
You see him just like outside his ex daughter-in-law's house with a fucking net and an Ash Ketchum hat just peeking around the corner. Something's just got to do yourself.
That's something you've never seen.
Now fight each other.
This is something you've never seen in Pokemon, is somebody who is like the ultra rich guy that's literally like collecting things over and over and like taking things away from other people. Like, I have to have more. Mm-hmm. Got to catch them all.
Well, I think they would have I think that's one of the problems. Maybe in the games it showed through. I mean, I haven't watched the show in years, but I think that was one of the problems with the show is they bump shoulders with somebody. It'd always be some like really obnoxious. It would be one of two things: some obnoxious asshole like, "Hey, I'm the best at what I do because I'm in a Pokemon circus, or I'm in like a Pokemon I'm a Pokemon painter or some bullshit like that." And then by the end, they're friends. Or it'll just go by the way of, oh, we gotta help this guy out. No, here comes Team Rocket to fuck it up. I think if they actually did do a little bit... I want to say they did have, like, rich upper-class people, but they never really had more...
Well, there's that one episode where they go to the school, where there's, like, the preppy school, where we train the most elite Pokemon masters. There was, like, that episode.
But then it didn't really tap on, like... class. It was more of like, oh wow, you guys are really good. Oh well, you fucking peasants are pretty good too. We didn't see that coming. So I think I don't know. I mean, it's a kids show. They're not trying to say anything that fucking deep.
Well, they still on that Rich episode they still kind of touch on it because Ash is pretty much like he is equivalent of like our trailer trash hero that kind of comes out from, well, he's not trailer trash, but like he isn't like rich. He just comes from like a fucking regular house. You know what I mean? That they probably rent and so on. And then he goes
with only 7 buildings.
Yeah, and then he goes to like Richie Rich Zone where these people are like, you don't even know how to train your Pokemon. And then of course I don't know how he wins that episode. I can't really remember that too much to tell.
I want to say there's a kid. The rest of them bully.
Yeah, there is like some little blonde-haired kid in like a school suit who's like, I just love my Pokemon, and they're like, oh, you can't love them. They're your servants. But
Very much
really
like
love
that.
him.
I remember the bit of all like for the there's the there's the really snobby bitch. I remember she had a Cubone. That's what I remember.
Oh yeah, she did have a Cubone. Well, because the whole point about that episode too is like they're like, oh, we don't travel the world to get our gym badges. We do them here from a computer program. We get intelligent from it, or something like that. It was almost like it was like traveling around getting badges. Well, that's what the poor heathens do. Which is where the Cubone does not seem like a rich person's Pokemon. That seems like total like, oh, I sleep out in the woods. I live in a cave. Got a Cubone.
That just sounds like some kids are like, we're out like beating an abandoned washer machine with a baseball bat. Then a fucking bone comes swinging out of nowhere, hits it. And I'm like, I like this guy. We started hanging out. And then next thing you know, when he wasn't looking, I caught that motherfucker in a Pokeball.
Yeah, I got found a Pokeball out behind, like the old McDonald's. Somebody, I guess, didn't need it. Someone else's trash, my treasure, I tell you what.
That's sort of what Cubone sort of seems to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like he walks around with something else's skull on his face and a bone.
Exactly, you know what I mean? So it's like it was such a weird choice for like some rich upper class fucking yuppie duppy person.
I think it'd be like Vileplume, something like that.
Yeah, something a little bit different.
Or Clefairy or some shit.
Yeah, something like that. That would kind of seem a little bit more like accurate.
Maybe like fuck, I don't know why my mind went there. Maybe if all the money in the world, like they were like, okay, because they made a weird choice they're doing the Pokemon movie, but what they're doing with it is it's just going to be the Pikachu's adaptation of that Pikachu's detective game, which okay, all right, that's
whatever.
Just weird. You think okay, but I was thinking like, what if they just like, no, we're actually gonna do something different. We're making the Pokemon movie, but we're actually kind of in a sort of way retelling all the money in the world, like some really intense drama. So all these rules.
It's just about a guy, instead of having paintings, he just has Pokemon just like in his mansion. He just has so many of them. He's like, I have to have them all. Gotta catch them all. It's like, but your grandson's been captured. Fuck him. He ain't a Pokemon. I mean, he's my favorite. Like, we used to go Pokemon capturing together,
It's Team Rocket going against Professor Oak. He's an old retired. He started off getting his PhD or his master's, and then after time he just invested, and then he got kind of jaded. And once Ash captured all the Pokemon in his data for him, as well as Gary. Well, actually, he never really cared or loved Gary. Because Ash is the one that completed everything. Ash was the one who accomplished everything. So he kind of pushed Gary to the side. But Team Rocket goes and kidnaps Gary. He's like, kill him! I don't care!
I like how you put down like Professor Oak too. You're like, he was getting his PhD. No, fuck, he's getting his master. He wasn't that good.
Isn't a master's better?
No, master's below.
Oh, I thought PhD. Okay, fuck it, my bad. Shows where I'm at today. Anyway, no. Oh yeah, what would I do? Fuck yeah, of course. It was PhD. I'm not here today. Okay, that is right.
But yeah, just that Professor Oak, like, no. Maybe if it was Ash, but I'm not paying for that Gary kid.
Yeah, and he's just, by that point, Ash is like, Ash is out in the mountains, living like a man. He doesn't need my help, Gary.
Be funny too, it's just called All the Pokemon in the World.
It's just a picture of him looking really solemnly out a window, holding a Pokeball, Bill Nye Bill Nye playing Professor Oak.
Yeah, exactly. You can still have Marky Mark in there, too. He's still trying to solve this fucking case.
Ash could have a cameo,
Yeah, exactly. You'd have the Ash cameo.
I like the idea of they cut his ear off with a scyther. Scyther does it.
Yeah, it comes by. Scyther!
Scyther, you splash! No!
That'd be a pretty sweet movie. That would just take...
We're Disney. We can do whatever. We're Disney. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Disney?
Well, they're making the movie.
All the money in the world?
They're making the Pokemon movie.
Oh, are they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird. God, see,
I don't know if it's true. I heard that outside of the game, they own Pokemon now. I don't know if that's true. I think I would have heard about that. I think they only have the licensing to the movie, but what I heard is they actually own Pokemon now. I don't know if that's
for the
true.
media rights.
For the media rights, while Nintendo still makes the game.
Well, that's because I thought Cartoon Network had that.
I think it's on. I haven't watched it in years, but I think it's on Disney now or something.
Oh God, fucking Disney! It's almost one of those ones like I'm getting very close to not even seeing Disney movies anymore, just for the fact that like I just don't want to support this like ginormous monstrosity that keeps going on, just because it's almost like not worth doing it, because it's just like, God, what else are they gonna take if I keep going to see their movies and such? You know what I mean?
He's like that Tetsuo blob at the end of Akira, just keeps on like bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I want to feed into this. It's like, it's not saying that you don't have to watch the movies, you just don't pay for them. That's the key thing. You know what I mean? I feel bad for the guys that work on the job, because they're like, we need a fucking job, you know, but because, you know, the last thing Disney's going to do is we're not cutting the fucking Mickey Mouse paycheck. We'll cut these fucks that work below us. Huh?
That's what we fucking do. No, I was going to say, my thing about them acquiring, we actually never really talked about this too much. We kind of like tapped it briefly. My thing about them acquiring 20th Century Fox is, all right, bear with me on this. Mm-hmm. I understand why and how they would want to get X-Men and Star Wars. I get that, because even though they own rights to the rest of Star Wars, they own the rights to A New Hope. Fox did, so they couldn't put out some big Blu-ray box set of all the movies together. Now, the thing that just seems weird to me, because I totally, all the remaining Marvel stuff. The thing that seems weird to me is the idea, like, okay, now Disney is putting out all other 20th century things. Like, is it still going to be 20th Century logo when Planet of the Apes comes out, or what's that going to be?
Yeah, well, it's like, I don't know if they just bought more stock into 20th Century Fox. Like, sometimes that's what they mean when that happens. It's kind of like Sega. Perfect example of that is when Sega was losing all their money back in the end of the Dreamcast days. This sounds like the weirdest company, but Sammy bought fucking like 70% of Sega stock. So by that standard, Sammy owns Sega, but Sega still does its own thing, I guess, technically. You know what I mean? But fucking Sammy collects like the paycheck pretty much at the end of the day on Sega's like main profits. So that might, I almost think that's more like, because when I kind of did the research in it, it wasn't like Disney like outright bought it like the same way they did with like Star Wars or Marvel Studios. It was more like I think they were just getting closer to owning more of it, like as far as probably buying into their stock.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like the idea of Disney having too much. It's like anything. Nobody should have that. I mean, Warner Brothers shouldn't have that much power. Universal shouldn't have that much power. But Disney just has it feels like they just got a little bit more power over all the other movie studios. You know what I mean? It's just to the point of like, it's getting close. It just means getting close to a monopoly. And then everybody who has a monopoly always goes like, well, no, we don't technically have a monopoly. Look at Warner Brothers still makes their own stuff, but.
Yeah. Now I'll say this. I haven't even read this article. I just clicked on it. There's a whole bunch of stuff saying what Walt Disney is in terms of related to Pokemon. I'll just come to the end. In terms of non-Pokemon anime, Disney also holds the outside Japan World rights, the majority of films noted Studio Ghibli, and co-producers of Japanese-only series based on Lilo and Stitch. Okay, whatever. Formerly aired. Okay, so maybe from glancing at this is me roughly glancing at it, not totally reading it. I take it as Disney formerly owned Miramax Studio, formerly American Rights, Pokemon movie, Killed Voices, Forest, I think they just own distributing rights to the anime. And because of that, I think they're making the live-action movie that comes out whenever.
So yeah, they got the media rights pretty much for like the show stuff.
Okay, because somebody was making it out to be that they owned everything that wasn't the video game. So.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I guess that's... They probably don't... They don't have the... Because at the end of the day, I guess Pokemon, this is like your general three things. You got the game, you got pretty much anything from like the TV show and movies, and then you got the toys and so on. It's toys, cards, and merchandising. So I guess that's like the three big things of Pokemon. And yeah, so they probably what they just have is they just have the U.S. distribution rights for movie and anime. But still, once again, that took away from Cartoon Network. They're just like giving another fuck you to Warner Brothers and another like, you know what I mean? It's just like they're slowly picking apart like other studios, like just going in and pulling out their big guns. And I think that's just one thing. It's like I'm so close to like not spend like I'm gonna see Black Panther and then that might be about it. That's about as far as I'm gonna go.
What about Avengers 3?
Maybe not in theaters. I don't know. It's just I'm almost kind of. We'll see how much more they like this fucking like thing absorbs and becomes like fucking, you know what I mean? Just keeps taking things in. But it's just like I don't know. I'm just to the point where I just don't know.
It's so weird because it is one of those things where I remember there's a time where when I was a kid, maybe because we just both watched a lot of maybe we both watched a lot of Looney Tunes when we were younger, and it seemed like maybe not as big, but almost as big. Bugs Bunny was a pretty big character because our parents grew up watching them. My dad really liked Looney Tunes and kind of got me into it as a kid. And then I saw Space Jam and I watched the old syndicated cartoons on Nickelodeon and whatever. And I remember just being a huge Looney Tunes fan, even into like middle school and looking into a lot of the older ones and all that, still finding them funny. And now I'm trying to think. I'm like, do kids even really... is it really even the mouse versus the rabbit anymore? Is that even the case? Or is it more of like... Or are all the Looney Tunes characters, hey guys, we're over here. Remember us?
I think sadly Looney Tunes is. It's like in the same kind of category as sort of Hanna-Barbera stuff. It's kind of like... I mean, there's probably... Once again, there's probably always is that retro kid out there. You know what I mean? Like... we were retro kids, but I think it was a little bit in the 90s. It was a lot easier to be a retro person than it is almost nowadays. There's so much shit, like, because back then it was just like, you watched whatever came on TV. So when I sat down and watched Cartoon Network, you know, like a modern show would be, you know, Powerpuff Girls and Johnny Bravo. But at the end of the day, like, what filled up more of the time on there was Hanna-Barbera and, you know, Warner Brothers and fucking MGM with, Tom and Jerry and so on. So I watched a lot of old stuff, even old Disney things and so on. That was like what did. But nowadays, you have so much other choices that I just think you don't have... Like, the retro stuff's only there if you want to see it. But you don't have to see it. You know what I mean? Like, where we almost kind of had to see it. Like, who knows? If we didn't have the choice, if it was like, okay, you could watch 24 hours of programming of modern cartoons, or you could watch these old ones. And I think if a kid goes, oh, well, I guess I'll go with the modern cartoons then. And I wonder if that's kind of it. And then, you know, there's always going to be that one kid who's like, oh, the 60s cartoons are where it's fucking at, man. I don't know what you guys fucked up about, but it's all about 60s cartoons. You know, there's going to be that kid, but I think those kids are a lot fewer and far between. Where, I mean, it's the same thing with, like, retro gaming. I think it's just, when we were kids, like, obviously there was way less choices, too. You know what I mean? Like, video games only like double like every handful of years. So back then it's like, oh, okay, I mean, you only had so many Super Nintendo and Genesis games to play. So next thing you know, you're like, well, let's go seek out some regular Nintendo games and some Atari games and so on.
Yeah, to bring it back around to just the retroness, if a kid goes back and watches, like a kid today, like just today, like say, let's set him at 11. Mm-hmm. You put on Roger Rabbit for him. You get into like the first 10, 15 minutes of that movie. Is he going to say, who's this black duck talking shit to Donald Duck at the beginning of the movie? Think you're going to get that?
Well, here's the thing. I don't even know if they really know Donald Duck that well either, because even Donald, I mean, does Mickey and Donald even have the strongest, like, fucking, like, presence on cartoons nowadays? I mean, they got, like, that Mickey's Kids Playhouse. But
I have a young cousin that, like, believe it or not, that show's been on fucking forever. And I have a young cousin who watches that, and one of my nephews, he's now like 11 or 12, and he was watching that show when he was a kid, because that show was on back when he was like, you know, like 4 or 5.
So okay, so Mickey and Donald do have a little bit more of a presence, but I even feel though it's like, do they have like does that extend past the Mickey's Clubhouse? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just say you had parents that didn't really care to take you to Disneyland, and maybe you didn't even have Disney Channel. You just had fucking Nickelodeon or something nowadays. There
was like some kind of, I haven't seen it, but I know there's some kind of retro style looking Mickey cartoon where they look like they kind of were back in the like 1930s, but it's a lot more fluid animation. I don't know how funny it is or what. I remember seeing like just screenshots of that at some point. So that didn't look like it was aimed for the Mickey's Clubhouse group, but look, something was on there. So who knows?
Okay, so there is a little bit there, because I'll say, because like when we were growing up, we had actually had a lot of Disney shows. You had fucking Darkwing Duck, you had Goof Troop, you had Chip and Dale, you had fucking DuckTales, and so on. So I mean, oddly enough, though, it's funny. It's like, when was the last time there was like a humongous like Mickey show? You know, for Mickey being this like huge thing, it's like he never seems to have like, you know. And where's the last time a Mickey movie fucking came out? You know.
I don't think there's ever a Mickey movie. I think that's the weird thing. I think he's more of a... He was the star of a lot of theatrical shorts and got really popular. And then he was just the mascot of the company because it was easy. He just had the 3 circles. People recognize that. And from there, it's kind of weird because Goofy, and I know they all been to theaters. They've all been to theaters because they were in shorts.
Yeah.
But Goofy was the star of a feature-length picture with him and his boy from a animated TV show. You know, that was so weird. It was just like, yeah, it's a sequel to this kids TV show that came on in the afternoon. It's kind of a year or two later, but whatever. Here it is, kids. Here's his movie. That happened. Mickey was in that movie for a second, but the idea that I'm kind of surprised we've never seen a Mickey Mouse movie. Maybe because I don't know. Maybe I know I know it's all like a bunch of guys in executive outfit, like executive suits and all that. But I can't help whenever shit goes bad, I can't help being a mouse just in a suit, like slamming his fist against a counter in front of a big pile of cocaine. Like, you tell that motherfucker the deal goes down at noon!
No, definitely, totally. And it's just weird though. It's like, cause think about it. Was the Goof Troop movie the last theatrical like of the Mickey Mouse characters? You know what I mean? Not the the fairy tales, not the other Disney stuff. I mean, literally, like I feel like the Disney characters: Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and the gang. Was that the last one?
I think that was the last one. I mean, I think that was the only one, really, that was a feature-length movie where they... I mean, okay, they had cameos and whatever, but...
Yeah, not counting cameos. They got to be a full-on starring role.
I think that was the only movie where there wasn't a made-for-TV movie. There was a feature-length that went to theaters. Maybe some Disney fans out there could... Here's the thing. We're actually, it feels weird saying it. We're actually Disney fans, but it's it's just the way the business goes though. It's just so like, it's too much power.
That's what I mean. It's like, here's the thing. It's like, I fucking like Goof Troop. I fucking love that. Like, actually, all the Mickey cartoons, I fucking think are awesome. It's this weird thing. It's more just like, I always said this. Disney makes good stuff. You know what I mean? They might have a little bit of like, I think kind of sometimes a negative influence. Like they try to go a little too family friendly. You know, like I look at like the Marvel movies this year. They made them. It's not that they're bad movies, but they just went a little too hardcore on the comedy. Something that obviously, Sony wouldn't, or not Sony, but fucking Fox wouldn't have a problem with, because Fox did the exact opposite where they went fucking hardcore. You know. So it's like, they do have that, but at the end of the day, it's like, most of the time, like, there's tons of good, in the last 100 years, lots of great Disney movies. But it's more of a power thing. I just don't like that power thing. Like, I just don't believe that one company should have that much power over the other.
I want to say some Disney exec, actually, back in the day, said at some point, no matter how big every company is, they're going to fall. Mm-hmm. I want to say I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was Walt Disney, but some big power exec, I think even from maybe as far back as the 70s, said that. And I can see Disney knows that, so they're just trying to be as strong and trying to just to make them last as long as they can, because they're the reason why a lot of public domain shit still does not go through. They kind of changed a lot of public domain laws because they didn't like the idea of Mickey Mouse being used for free on whatever. So yeah.
Well, that, and then like even like some stuff too. It's like the Peter Pan laws. I remember when we were talking about a Peter Pan movie. If you base it off the play, you're fine, but like Disney still has those Peter Pan rights kind of locked down kind of well. So you got to like make sure you pick. I think if you have the book, then I don't know if that's owned by Disney. Disney just probably has the rights to their version, but you got to be careful, because even these fairy tales, they're not even theirs in the first place, because they just took a bunch of public domain stuff from the beginning, but then they find a way to they can own like a halfway version of it, so that this is what people think of when it is this, but that's really their version. But
Around Christmas time, there's a bunch of the family was there and kids were watching TV, and I was watching this show with them, and it was like, okay, it's this little like kind of pirate show for kids, and like little kids. And as I'm watching, I'm like, wait, that's fucking Captain Hook from Peter Pan. I'm like, oh, okay, so they're just using Peter Pan. They're just using like they're making this kids show just take place in Peter Pan. It's like a Dora the Explorer kind of thing. And then I stopped and I realized this is something that was all the way back in the fucking, like, I think 50s or 60s. And it took... That one's 40s. Okay, wow. All right. And that, took... One of them... There's some Disney movie that took them... I want to think... Maybe it was Lady and the Tramp. Took them 20 years to make. Maybe it was Peter Pan. That one at least took, like, at least 5 or 6 years. Something around there. And... I'm thinking about that, like, oh my god, this movie that's been around that fucking long, that had this kid doesn't probably even know exists, really, unless someone puts it on for him. It's like, oh, look, it's kind of like The Thing you watch, only it doesn't have the little pirate kid. It's this other guy in green that flies. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that, just the idea of, like, you're kind of basing nostalgia. It's this thing based on nostalgia for kids who don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird one. And it's always weird to think because there's a lot of those Disney classics, you kind of forget almost how old they are. And I know that Disney does that. Like, they don't put the dates on the back of their movies because they don't want you to know that, like, because I think it's one of those ones that somebody look up, 1944 or whatever the fuck the movie is, 42, what the fuck is this shit? But if you look at it and go, because, a lot of Disney movies, the only thing that mostly, like, lets you know that it's really fucking old is the music. That's always the thing that gives it away. The music will always tell you kind of when it sort of was.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also some things coming out. Like, they're going through this whole phase of just remaking all their animated classics.
Yeah.
And I actually saw Jungle Book on Netflix, and I was surprised it was actually good. Mm-hmm. I wasn't... Well, I didn't think it was going to be awful or anything, but I thought it was going to be okay. It was better than I thought it would be, and I'll go as far as to say I think it's better than the original, because the original is just a kid in underwear hanging out with animals, and they just bounce from situation to situation. And the new one's like, oh wow, it actually has a story, kind of comes full circle in some way, and this and that. Now, Beauty and the Beast seemed kind of redundant because that already seemed like a pretty solid movie. I think the original, like some of those really, really early ones, seem kind of more like, look what we can do! Check this shit out!
Yeah.
And Beauty and the Beast is already at a point where, no, they got this shit down. They're good at animating. And it already looks better in animation than as live action. Why are you making this shit right here? And now they're doing a Lion King one.
Which that one sounds fucking retarded. Because the one's like, how you can't even have Lion King live action. You know what I mean? There's no way that the fucking animal rights people would let you have a bunch of actual animals. So there's just going to be all CG. So how is that live action? That's still a cartoon. It's like fucking stupid.
I'm interested in Mulan. Mulan, I think, could be cool.
Well, Mulan could be kind of a cool one. I'd rather see like more like the Ridley Scott presents Mulan movie instead. I feel like that would be fucking awesome. Like, this is how this shit went down. And yes, she still did have a pet dragon voiced by Eddie Murphy.
They probably update it. It probably wouldn't be Eddie Murphy. It'd probably be like,
if they
Jordan, it'd probably be like Jordan Peele or something like that. Hopefully it wouldn't be Kevin Hart.
I was gonna say no. Like there's there's like a 95% chance that it's gonna be Kevin Hart.
I can totally see it. I hope it's not Kevin Hart.
But no, I like the idea of like it's the Ridley Scott one. Everything in the movie's fucking serious, but then there's Eddie Murphy as the dragon, but nobody fucking questions why that is.
Like, hey man, what the fuck's going on? Name's Mo Shoe.
It says radar. Like,
you must prove your
fucking shoe.
You must prove your ancestors proud, Mulan. We send you this guardian. Yo, what's up? That very of the 90s, very contemporary presentation for it. I will say, thinking back on that movie, because I liked that movie a lot as a kid.
Oh, that's one of the best Disney movies.
And I still got good memories of it, but Mushu does seem really out of place when I think back on that movie. Everything else in the movie fits. And I love Eddie Murphy, but he really seems out of fucking place.
Well, that's how all those Disney movies are, though. There's always, like, everything's, like, in their world, and then there's that one, like, token character that's just something different, you know what I mean? Like, does not fit whatsoever. Because, you know, you'd think everybody would be Chinese, but even a lot of the voice acting is, like, not even, they don't even have Chinese accents. They just kind of, like, they just throw them in there like that. Mm-hmm. And then Mushu, of course, is just the, like, super different part. Because it's the 90s, so you got your black character in there, so it's like, here's your black dragon.
Yeah. Well, that was even like, I mean, I'm curious to know what that movie's going to be. So, I don't know. I mean, I would like to see, I'm assuming Mulan is probably based. How accurate it is, I don't know. But I'm assuming it's probably based on an old Chinese myth, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's based on a real story and everything like that, so... That's why, but I'd just like to see, like, what's the actual, like, real story? Like, and I just say Ridley Scott, because, you know, if somebody's going to do it, awesome. We know Ridley Scott would fucking do it sweet. Mm-hmm. Hell, I'd take the Oliver Stone version, too. That'd probably be another one that'd be kind of cool.
Or what if, like, his, you know, if it's an Oliver Stone movie, expect some, like, harsh, unsettling shit at some point. Like, they walk in on, like, a village the Huns destroyed, and there's, like, some fucking people still tied up to a cross, burning, fucking pigs eating at their fucking feet. Just some real, like, Rambo 5 shit. And then... Or Rambo 4. Rambo 4. And, or then, like...
What if it was Rambo 5, Mulan? Directed by Sly Stone. I mean, not Sly Stone. I mean, fucking Sylvester Stallone.
They work together.
Sly Stone. I don't know. Sly and the Family Stone presents Rambo 5.
Fuck, why not? Let's do it. Let's see. We're here.
Rambo 5.
It's 2018. Mulan. Let's fucking do it.
Well, while Rambo was sailing a boat in Vietnam, he went down a magical path that took him back in time to China.
Hey, what's this? Whoa!
Whoa! It's like Land of the Lost, like Rambo and his boat get sucked down. A time warp.
Hey, man, what the fuck is this? Get over here! It's a dragon! I gotta kill a dragon! No, man!
It's me, Eddie Murphy! Eddie Murphy?
But I'm a dragon! Like, oh, alright, cool.
He's like, I fell down a time chute too! Oh, okay. Why are you a dragon? Why am I still Rambo?
Don't question it. Just let's go with it.
It's up to Rambo to help Mulan save China.
Rated PG-13. Not for the R version. If they have it was that goofy and wacky and they still made it R.
Well, because that's the thing about the Mulan movie. It's like, I'm not saying that a PG-13 one couldn't be cool, and who knows? It'll probably be kind of like partially music. I'm guessing it's just going to be, they're literally just going to take the animated movie and then just make it fucking live action. But I would like to see the one where it's like, no, this is like Gladiator, fucking, but Mulan.
I'm assuming, I'm gonna just go on a limb here. If it's Mulan, I think it's gonna give you an option to actually do some really cool action scenes, because I'm hoping they just don't shortchange it and it just turns into like a fun. I think that one has more of a possibility of being, because what they did Cinderella, they did Jungle Book, they did Beauty and the Beast. Is that 3 and
then they did
Maleficent.
There's like it's a little bit different, but Maleficent. I mean, I know it's not like it's like more like an alternative version, which I thought that was kind of a cool idea. And that one had kind of, you know, almost Lord of the Rings like action in it.
So I think something like Mulan, hopefully you can get some opportunities to get some cool sword fights or kung fu fights in there.
But you're not going to get like Mulan like stabbing some fucker in the head and then cutting it off or something like that. See, that's the thing that would be awesome to see.
You won't get that. Maybe they'll come up with some bullshit where the Huns actually have if they come up with add in some bullshit like the Huns have like powers and they make like stones come to life or dirt monsters. Maybe then you'll get her chopping some things fucking heads off. But beyond that, I was gonna say no. But if it was Oliver Stone, you'd probably get some really weird, tense, awkward like sex scene of when she finally does like get with the one dude who thinks she's a guy. He's just like, no. Keep your hair tied back.
Exactly. I liked you when you were a boy.
No music, just this really uncomfortable, long, drawn-out sex scene.
I want the dragon to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I won't be watching this. Shit.
Shut the fuck up.
Just like...
Prove your ancestors proud.
And then instead what it is no, he's just like, I'm going to bend over. Okay, Mulan, put the strap on. This is how. Be a man. Be a man.
Must be faced as a raging river.
For the strength of a great typhoon.
Fuck a man.
Just like, oh god, we didn't think this is what Oliver Stone was gonna do. I mean, like, you know, we thought, let's get a creative director to do this. We also didn't really realize that he's pretty much only done rated R movies his entire life, and he almost doesn't know how to do something else other than that.
Shows what happens when you give him the keys to the car. All right.
But
the place he takes us.
yeah, because really think about it, like, has Oliver Stone ever done a?
He did the 9/11 Trade Towers movie.
Oh, and that was PG-13.
Yeah, but I almost feel like I do believe that, you know, he is patriotic in that aspect, but at the same time I see him being very like, yeah, this is gonna fucking sell. It's patriotism. It's PG-13. It's Go America.
Yeah, it's,
so
it's everything
that's
people
gonna
love.
be.
You know, but
that. I mean, I don't know how that movie did. I'm assuming it did good because it came out at a time where everyone's like, "You're questioning George W."
yeah, exactly. But even even like W, that's rated R. You know,
W is PG-13.
oh, is that PG-13? Okay, maybe Oliver Stone has done a couple PG-13. Nixon's rated R then, and so as I want to say, JFK.
JFK is R.
Yeah, I mean, just for like swearing. And yeah, a little
they
bit
actually
of
show they actually show the autopsy photos and that. So yeah, that is R. Yeah, no, I mean, if we think and look long enough and hard enough, we could probably find a couple PG-13. So the two that come to mind are 9/11, the Trade Towers movie, and W.
W, yeah. But yeah, no, it's like, I mean, overall, like, hopefully it comes out good. I mean, just saying. But, you know, that's one of those ones, it would still be worth seeing. Like, I would say more than that. It's like the Lion King one, that's just fucking retarded. Like, why would I even see that? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's already a bunch of talking animals that are animated.
Yeah, it's like, I don't, that was literally just a cash grab movie. That is nothing more than a cash grab. There's no reason to remake that other than to get more money. But, yeah, all kinds of weird things like that. But other than Disney stuff, in the last while, I kind of touched on this a little bit in the last podcast. It's like I've been kind of just going back on this, like, almost like survival horror, like, marathon of games. And, like, I was playing Dino Crisis 1 and 2 again. I think it originally started because I went and I bought fucking Code Veronica for, like, the 4th time because it was on sale on PlayStation for, like, $350. And you're like, well, fuck. $350, PS4, why not? Let's just get it. I know it's only the PS2 version, but it's going to be upscaled and so on, whatever. And through this marathon, it's like I started finally playing Silent Hill. I was like, that was a game that, like, I've almost like dabbled in my entire life. Like, I've always played just a little bits of it. Like, you know, when Silent Hill 1 was out, you know, me and Cisco, we played that, but we never really beat it. We just kind of, you know, got maybe halfway through it or something like that. And even Silent Hill 2 and 3, like, I started them multiple times, but never, like, really, like, got into it. Well, I beat Silent Hill 1, I beat 2, and I beat 3, and it's like, I finally just, like, sat down and went through them. It's like, I gotta do this, you know? There's something, like, there's just some of those game series that's, like, you can't be, like, this big of a fan and not go through certain games, you know what I mean? Like, there's just gotta be a moment.
Was Silent Hill 2 for PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1?
That's PS2. Because Silent Hill's really...
Okay.
Like, Silent Hill 1 came out in 99, so it's totally, like, the tail end of PlayStation 1. I know, because for the fact you think of it being such a big one, to me, like, what always comes to mind for, like, that golden age of survival horror always seems to be, like, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, you know, Dreamcast era. But you almost kind of forget, it's like, oh, yeah, you know, like, the next half of that's, like, PS2 time.
Sorry about that.
You know. But, yeah, like... So going back and playing through Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3, it just kind of like, I always feel like kind of catching up on some of these like missing survival horror games. Because sadly enough, it's one of those genres that almost barely exist anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, from like, there's horror games, of course, but like true survival horror games are kind of a little bit rare, especially if you want them kind of in classic style. I mean, it's no different than the RPG. The RPG barely exists too, if you want it in the classic style. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Parasite Eve, that was a big one around that time. There was kind of a confused between RPG style and survival horror, right?
Yeah, that first Parasite Eve, because the weird thing about Parasite Eve is it sort of changes each time, like, gameplay style, but that first one is, like, pure amazing. Like, and it's really, like, it's a turn-based RPG. I mean, you can run around in it, but still, like, turn-based. I mean, you literally, but it's like sort of survival horror all at the same time, and it's just got a cool storyline and everything like that. Yeah, it's like there's that really cool period where there's just all those kind of games, and I know it's one of those ones like, you know, a lot of people, even at the time, because I remember in the early 2000s, people started going like, oh my god, these fucking games, and their stupid controls, and their, you know, camera angles, and all this stuff, and finding in puzzles, it's fucking stupid. And then, like, it's funny because people, like, there's so much criticism towards those about, and you know, about the early 2000s or something like that. You know, that they obviously switched, because you can almost say like that golden age of survival horrors is like Resident Evil 1 in 96 to about Resident Evil 4, because Resident Evil 4 is pretty much a perfect example of like, it's like the final sort of big survival horror game, but it's also at the same time like what the modern like action horror games will become. You know what I mean? It mixes kind of both of those together. But for me, it was just one of those ones like I wanted to go back. I wanted to play Silent Hill. I just never had went through those ones. Those are like sort of like games like I touched, but I just never got like super into them. And I will say that like compared to like a Resident Evil, they don't play nearly as smooth. And I feel also since it doesn't have the camera angles, you kind of realize that makes almost like a problem. You almost need those camera angles for just to control a little bit better. It sounds weird, but like when you're doing that kind of style and you want to have like a free roaming camera, it just doesn't work nearly as well. But once you get past that, I mean, it's only like a slight complaint, really, just compared to Resident Evil. It's like those games, though, are really fun. And like, I really love getting deep into those stories and kind of like finally kind of really almost learning what Silent Hill's all about.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first one. There is a. Tell me if I'm wrong here. The movie made it out to be okay. She has had some dark powers. But the first one actually, they're like, no. It's not that she has dark powers. It's actually she's actually spawn of the devil, and she's not a sweet little girl. She's actually evil. You have to kill her.
And well, and that's kind of how it is too. Like that movie, because I rewatched the movie too recently, and I kind of almost forgot. Like that movie should like it really is like talk about like given some real credit to like video games, like more than probably almost any movie ever has. Now it sort of does its own thing in a sense. I mean, it takes between 1, 2, and 3, and even maybe a little bit of 4. It kind of takes all these elements and kind of meshes them together and builds sort of its own story out of it. But at the end of the day, like I mean, like that movie, like the music is all from Silent Hill. Like that's the music they chose. It's like they take camera angles from it. They take monsters from it. I mean, like, you know, we're like other movies, like I'll use like Resident Evil, for example, kind of do the thing where it almost feels like they flip through like the Resident Evil manual. And then once they're done reading that, they toss it over their shoulder and go, yeah, I think I got it. I think I can do this. Like that's Silent Hill. Like, I mean, even the director himself, he played Silent Hill. That's why he wanted to make the movie and so on. And you know, really well. I mean, I know some people kind of like bitch. I think people bitch because like it's not like exactly the story of the game. It's like, well, yeah, they kind of, you know, do a little bit of they do an adaptation, but I feel like they combine so much of it together and kind of, you know, take between 1, 2, and 3 even and just like make like a full story just out of those ones. But it literally all the moments from it, they're not really just like made up to be made up. You know what I mean? It all kind of still is inspired and influenced from Silent Hill.
Was the Death Cult in one of the video games? I don't remember them in the first one.
Yeah, they're in like all of them pretty much.
Really?
I mean, okay. they don't make it like in the games. It's not like there's like 50 people like hanging out there. It's more like because like in the first Silent Hill, it's like, you know, you only run into maybe like 6 or 8 like technical humans in the game. You know, it's just like you got Sybil, like the police officer lady. You know, there's like the nurse. There's like this, you know, detective guy or whatever you want to call him. You know, and so on. And then there's, you know, the characters from that, But yeah, there is that death cult. That thing is like the whole thing of Silent Hill. The one thing that I never saw in the game is, you know, like they say it's like, oh, there was like a mining fire or whatever, and that's like ash coming down. I think in the game it still said it was snow falling in Silent Hill 1. I don't remember it ever mentioning ash. But I still think that's a cool, I mean, even if that's a change, that's still kind of cool anyways.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I never really got that. Well, I never got that far in Silent Hill 1. It'd always be around like the school, or by the time you get to I think the school was the first one. The second one was the hospital, right?
Yeah. No, that's about as far as I remember getting was the hospital, and it's like, and then it's like there's a couple other, you know, it goes on kind of far. Like that first Silent Hill is actually a pretty big game, all in all, you know, and it's one of those games where like you could see back in the olden days just getting so fucking lost and like making that game stretch out forever.
Yeah, I remember like I remember the movie being surprised. I mean, the movie was good. It was creepy, but I remember surprised at how unscared I was watching the movie. And I actually really commend that movie for not using jump scares. I mean, it was a creepy movie. It was a creepy movie, but I was expecting to be like I don't want to change the subject, but I see the trailer for that new Insidious movie. It's just fucking jump scare after jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. It's so fucking annoying. It's so fucking old. And I remember seeing this. I'm just thinking it's going to be filled with jump scares. And then watching, like, oh no, there was maybe 2 or 3, but they were used at reasonable times. And it was actually a movie that focused more on a creep factor than anything else. So, yeah.
I know, and that's why I give it so much credit for that too, because like the games themselves really have like no jump scares in them too much. I mean, there's a couple of them. I'm not gonna say there's not, but they're very little, like, especially compared to like Resident Evil. And even this sounds weird. Like Silent Hill doesn't really scare me. I don't know what it is about it. Like even though everything's all creepy and everything like that, like Resident Evil, I always feel is very scary. But Silent Hill is just more just like this creepy thing. Then it's a weird one. You would think these monsters and everything like that would be so creepy, or like would scare you so much, but it's like, I don't know. It's I feel like more fine running through Silent Hill than I do like Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil, I just have this fear of death the whole time. In Silent Hill, that fear of death isn't there nearly as often.
Is that more the gameplay or more as the aesthetic, you think?
I think it's kind of a little bit of both. I mean, like gameplay wise, it's like, you know, it's not that there's not creatures that can like jump you and get you, and it's not that there's not people that can kill you, but I just feel it's not there nearly as much. Like Resident Evil has that fear, like in a lot of those ones. There's so many things that can kill you almost in 1 to 2 hits, and there's just almost like all these other like extra little moments of like puzzles and stuff that can get you too. Where in Silent Hill, I just noticed there wasn't tons of that in there, so it almost made the fear of death like not nearly as bad. And this is the other thing too, is like, and I actually like this feature. This is like something that's almost like a better feature over Resident Evil, is you can just keep picking up unlimited shit. Doesn't matter where you go. You don't have that like inventory management like you do in Resident Evil. So next thing you know, as the game goes on, you're like, oh, I got like 20 health drinks and like 10 first aid kits, and so like you're totally loaded. Where Resident Evil is one of those ones where all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I just used my last herb and now I got to go running through God knows where before I find another one.
There was something actually pretty fun about Resident Evil 4. I don't know what it is. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but there's the whole, okay, I gotta manage my guns and my shit properly and move this around. There's something fun just about it teaching kids organization.
Yeah, well, see, I the Attache case in Resident Evil 4, I thought was like, oh, I love that, because I will say that's like one of my only slight complaints to like the older Resident Evils is sometimes the inventory management. I get it, it's a challenge thing, but sometimes it's just kind of like an obnoxious thing. Like I always thought that like, okay, I'm fine with my guns and my health being like in that management thing, but make all my key items like don't have a key be like the reason why I can't carry certain things. Like that I always thought was a little bit much. I mean, I've gotten used to it over the years because obviously that's one of my favorite series, but it is one of those ones like in Silent Hill was kind of nice, like going like, oh, I never have to worry about this. I can just keep picking shit up. If I see ammo, I don't have to go, well, I guess that ammo's staying there because I can't pick it up now.
Yeah, now this one, for instance, something I was going to say about Silent Hill. I think you said you weren't that scared of it. I remember when I first played the game and was at a friend's house because a friend of mine turned me on to it. And by the time I got to I just played when I was at his house because I didn't have a PlayStation. I remember by the time I got to the hospital, that's where I kind of checked out. I'm not going to lie, I was a bit of a pussy when I was a kid, and I found the game pretty scary. But at the same time, though, I think that was also the first time you kind of saw a little bit of that Japanese horror. Now, even though you can call Resident Evil kind of Japanese horror, I mean by Japanese horror of like weird, fucking, disturbing zombie creatures that walk but aren't entirely human. They don't have faces, but they have like weird limbs. And it has, even though it was like, meant to be like a creepy American town, it still had a lot of this like kind of Ring-esque kind of influence. I mean, it probably came out before The Ring, but you know what I mean. That kind of
well, Japanese Ring might have came out by that time. I'm not too sure what year that movie is.
Yeah, so it had some of that kind of Japanese horror, which you were used to seeing up to that point. It's like, what the fuck is this? And then, you know, when you get older, you see more of it, and you feel kind of numb to it. And I'll be honest, a lot of Japanese horror stuff doesn't really get me like it used to. Because I guess it became a thing of like, okay, bitch has hair hanging down in her face. What's the one thing we're not supposed to do? We're not supposed to answer the phone. We're not supposed to watch the video. We're not supposed to... It's always like... Because they had a bunch of like... There's a period like in the 2004 to 2008 or 9 where like every movie it was like, do not pick up the phone Why? If you pick up the phone, you're gonna die from a ghost with hair hanging down from her face. Okay. Don't watch the video. Why? Same fucking reason. And like there's like at least I think 5 different movies that were doing that type of shit.
Oh, if not more, because that was also the same time period too, where it was like the scary little girl. The scary little girl was always in 2000 movies. Like because even in Resident Evil, they have a scary little girl. Why? I don't know why the fuck they have a scary little girl. They just do because it was like that. It was the hip thing to do at the time. And Resident Evil is probably one of the first ones to kind of have the scary little girl and be mainstream about it. But and it's never a scary boy. It's always a scary girl. It's never a boy.
Are you referring to like the "you're all going to die down here" little hologram?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's not in the game or anything like that, so they use that. But I'll say this: yeah, Silent Hill 1. When we were kids playing that game, fucking super scary. I'm like that game was like ultra scary. And I'll still say this: Silent Hill 1 way scarier than 2 and 3. 2 and 3 just aren't nearly as scary as number 1 is. Like number 1 is like a beast on itself, and I think it's also due to the fact that like that game has like, because of its graphics and being on the PlayStation, and once again not using like the camera angles and the pre-rendered backgrounds and instead doing a full 3D environment, it creates that really shallow depth that you have to see. It doesn't matter where it is, because that game is like, if it's not foggy out, it's fucking dark as fuck. And I thought about, I'm like, if these games did not have a map system in it, you would be so fucking lost on where you were going in that game. Because you only could see like 5 feet in front of, or 5 feet in like a circle around you. That's like all you got, no matter what. And sometimes it gets even shallower.
I know you're not big on these 2 words, at least together, I'm about to say here. But I thought there's hints of it, I guess, and say. I mean, I guess to me, something like Resident Evil or Silent Hill just seems like a big environment where I always thought it'd be kind of interesting if there is a open world horror game. And there's probably elements of that. I know there's a lot of massive online player games where it's like it's a zombie world, but you gotta survive, and there's a lot of microtransactions or whatever.
Yeah, I don't really count those ones because they're not story games.
Not counting those, but I mean, an idea of a game where, say, something kind of like, you can throw in some zombie shit in there, but, something kind of like Silent Hill or something like some Into the World type shit. And I know they have, actually, I know there is one. I think it kind of came and went. There's the one where you have to go out in the middle of the day, the zombies aren't as fast, and you have to go collect supplies. And then at night, they have to get really strong, and you have to barricade the doors up because they're going to try and bust in and get to you. And if you make
Dying Light?
I think that's what it's called. I think so. I'm not sure if that's an open world game or if it just gives you a small little playground to do all this shit in. But I always thought something like that. Like something, and I know that's always easier to throw, here's a big, grand idea without the money or the knowledge of programming of how to do it. But I always thought something at like a Grand Theft Auto 5 level world and like that kind of shit going on, or like a Fallout level world, and like, you know what I'm saying?
And I think Dying Light sort of was like that. I think it was in the open world sense of being similar to like Far Cry. I played a little bit of it like when it initially came out. I remember Cameron and RJ brought it over, and it was okay. I don't know. This sounds weird. I'm not really into first person horror games. I don't know what it is. It kind of takes me out of the element. It's one of those genres I'm kind of picky about. Like, I don't really care for first person. I mean, it's different if it's something like Doom or like it's it is a first person shooter, or like Fallout, because I guess you could say Fallout's kind of horror too. But no, I mean like. And I don't like games where I can't fight back. If I can't fight back, I don't care to play your game. That's not scary to me. That's just not fun.
Games you can't fight back in that?
No, that game you can. But some games like Outlast, you can't fight back. I want to say the Clock Tower games, you can't fight back. I just don't like that idea of like I have to always run away. I mean, because this is how I like survival horror. I like survival horror like in a Metal Gear Solid way, because that's the same thing about stealth games. I hate stealth games where a guy turns and looks at you and goes, boom! And the next thing you know, it fucking game over. Like, that's fucking stupid. Like, in Metal Gear Solid, like, the whole thing about it's like, you're better off not being seen because it makes it easier. But if you are seen, you could still run away, fight your way through, and so on. You don't get a game over because of that, Unless it's, like, a small part, like, when you have to sneak in Metal Gear Solid 2 past, like, the Marine guys that are doing their thing. But that's a little bit different. That's just, like, a small moment, and it's not that hard. But for the most part, I really hate that kind of stuff. And same with survival horrors. Like, I don't like that you have to like sneak by or you can't be seen or something like that. That's why there's that Alien Isolation game that looked cool, but it's like I know I won't like that because I hate that style of gameplay. It's like if I can't really like Make the alien overpowered that it's better off if I don't fight it, but give me a fighting chance. You know what I mean? Don't just cheap shot me with a cinematic that like the alien's just gonna kill me for no reason at all. That's kind of annoying. But
Well, go ahead.
oh, you go ahead first.
I was gonna say I wasn't trying to play devil's advocate for that game. They gave you other things to fight that you could kill, but it was one of those things. If you took too long, it would like call attention to the alien. It would know where you're at and eventually come forward. Or you could use the alien to your advantage. Like you can make a noise and then it would see them and then go after people. So that was kind of interesting. I heard the big problem with the game is too much backtracking. It would take long, and after a while, when you got killed by the alien, it wasn't scary anymore. Just like, oh fuck this again.
Well, that's what happens. Is it's not scary. It's just like fuck. It's more just like god damn it. Like it's just like a cheap kill, and that's why I don't like that. So you know, I mean, like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, they're good about really not having that in there. I mean, I guess it might be there once in a blue moon, but yeah, like I guess an open world one. It's like there's that other game. I can't remember what it was, but I don't know if it was. I don't think it was a survival one, but I think it was a PC game. I'm not too sure if it was coming out for Xbox or PlayStation. Maybe it was, but they do have, I guess, stuff like that. Like the ones I don't really count as like the ones that are like just a straight up survival. Like they don't really have a storyline. It's just more like you survive for however long you can and get your buddies involved. You know, like those games, it's like, I want a story. Like the whole reason I show up to these events is because I love like the story of like, you know, Resident Evil or Silent Hill or Alone in the Dark even, or Dino Crisis or Onimusha or things like that. You know, there's those kind of things. And so it's like, it's cool going back and playing like Silent Hill and so on, and just like, here's these like missing out survival horror games that you kind of forget, you know, haven't played yet, but here you go at it, like have some fun, you know, learn about this thing. And it is, yeah, like all three of them have been great. Like 1, 2, 3, all excellent. You know, I mean, I still think the first one is kind of where it's at. Like there's something just super scary and just dark and sinister. And like, I don't know, maybe it's also a little bit nostalgia too, because that was the game that I remember back in the day just playing more than these other ones. But
I remember regarding, we were talking about for a minute, one time we were talking about like the idea of a horror game where the thing stalks you and you'll just get little hints that it's kind of in the area. Like I'm not sure, is there any other, can you think of any games like that though, where you have this, where there is some, I mean, it would have to be more of an experimental kind of like probably tech demo almost, or like a PlayStation online game, like a PlayStation downloadable game. But you know, remember we were talking about that?
I do kind of remember that. There was, because I was doing some research all of a sudden, because I was just getting super into like Silent Hill and so on. So I was looking up just like other survival horror games and looking at the history of the genre and so on, and all like the kind of like the pre-Resident Evil ones. And there was a game that came out in '82 that sounded kind of interesting. It's for the Sinclair, and what it was is like you're kind of going through in a first-person view, kind of solving these like mysteries and stuff. But you have a Tyrannosaurus Rex that's always constantly kind of coming after you.
T-Rex, well, it's like that's going to sneak up on you.
I know, but this is before Jurassic Park, so we don't know
just
that it's going to
tiptoeing, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun.
But like there's some interesting ones like that. There's a game for regular Nintendo that, well, I didn't know about it, but I guess it makes sense because it only came out in Japan. But I found a English transition of it. It's called Sweet Home, and it's made by Capcom, and they call it like the proto Resident Evil. Because, well, once again, it's Capcom. One of the guys who, I think the producer, not Shinji Mikami, but the producer of Resident Evil 1, he made it. And actually, Resident Evil is supposed to be a remake of this game initially before they went with what they did.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess because to add to what we're saying right here, we were talking about at one point in time, we were talking about almost like, I don't know how we would do it, like making a game. It would have to be more of a test game than anything else, but like this... game, we just kind of came up with a setting for it. And this is our idea, go fund me. This isn't that, but kind of like a idea of like you're out in the woods. It's night. It's winter. You're somewhere like, I don't know, in the Alps. And you're being hunted down by a Yeti or something like that, and kind of looking for clues of where the thing is constantly stalking you. And once in a while, the thing will come charging out, running at you. And there'd be clues in the area letting you know it's nearby or it's close by. And the clues be more, there'll be more clues showing you it's closer and closer and closer. And it's just always around you. And the thing would always be there. It wouldn't be just randomly generate. It would always be there, and you could maybe shake it for a little while. When you're talking about games that possibly did something like that, like, was there any game? Then this was just us in our pipe dream kind of horror game we were just bullshitting about. But we were kind of thinking, is there a game out there where you would have to constantly stay away from something, like not the alien thing? Because the alien thing sounds like you did something, so the thing appears. That's almost what that sounds like.
Yeah, and I only played that game, so I played a little bit of it at RJ's house because I just wanted to kind of see. And it was one of those games, like, if it didn't have that mode in it, it actually looks like it'd be a fucking sweet game. But I just know that I would get frustrated, and I'd be like, no, fuck this game. Because that's how I felt about Outlast. Like, Outlast wasn't even scary. It's just like a guy just comes up to you and just starts swinging his fucking club dick at you, and he just keeps hitting you over and over, and you're like, I'm supposed to just run away? Like, I don't know what it is. Just like, I literally can't even punch the guy. Come on. Like, are you fucking serious?
Plus, I feel like Outlast is just a jump scare machine. I know a lot of games will give you hints, but I think Resident Evil, at least Resident Evil 4, the one I played all the way through, that one at least gave you hints about shit's not right and something could pop out at you. Like, I think that one had really great design. For instance, it's very rarely you'd walk into a room and something just comes out of nowhere. There is usually kind of maybe you'd be in a rush and you need to pay attention, but there is a lot of the times there will be a context clue. Like, there is one time I remember, you probably know what part I'm talking about. You're walking through some kind of facility, and there's like this white-looking, refrigerator-looking thing with a red light going off. And there's no noise, but you see there's a red light going off. That's the first time you've ever seen that. And as you walk towards it, it explodes, and a guy on fire comes running at you. Yeah, so that was one of those things. That's actually, I can't be mad because the thing kind of gave me a hint because it's literally a red blinking light.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. A lot of times, if you pay enough attention in survival horror games, there's mostly always at least some kind of clue. And sometimes there's not a clue. I'm going to say this. There's some of those games where, like, all of a sudden it's like, if there was a clue, I clearly did not. It was not clear enough, but... And a lot of times, like, as long as it's not, like, cheap kills, I feel like that's okay. You know what I mean? There's almost, like, a certain way you can do it and a certain way you can't. Like Resident Evil, like, in that game, like, its jump scares, I feel like they never feel like... I feel like in a movie, jump scares, if you use too many of them, they can be kind of cheap. Video games, it's like, very rarely do they ever have them that often that you can... I've never played a game where I felt like, oh my god, they're just, like, using jump scares, like, left and right. Most of the time, this, like, what really gets you is a lot of times in video games when you fucking turn around and you didn't realize that there was somebody right fucking behind you. That's lots of times what gets you. It's like, it's not really, it's like your own created jump scare, you know?
There's a jump scare that didn't always get me. It got me one time, but it got me good. It was in Resident Evil 4, and there's the part where I want to say it's after the big bald motherfucker chokes you out, and you wake up on a bed. And you're in this house, and I want to say it's seems like a safe zone. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually if you're in a safe zone, you couldn't pull your gun out. But here, you could still pull your gun out, but you went to every room, and everything was fine. And then you just go to the bathroom, and there's just one guy in there turning around from taking a piss.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Well, mostly in Resident Evil, you can always pull your gun out in Resident Evil games, no matter where you are. If you wanted to waste all your ammo in the save room, you could. But mostly save rooms, if you ever found a save room, you mostly know that, like, okay, this area is pretty much good to go. So I think that was kind of the thing, is the whole top floor was fine. The second you went downstairs, there was some dude taking a leak. And that was the guy that was going to scare you. Because, well, I mean, yeah, Resident Evil 4, when that game... I mean, that game is, as I said, it's like the good mixture between... It's total, like, it's survival horror as you can get, but it's also, like, the bridge to, like, action horror, I guess you can kind of say. You know, I mean, and it's not saying action horror can be just as scary as survival horror. I mean, some people think that, like, they can't be, and that's not true. You know what I mean? Fucking Left 4 Dead can be scary. You know, Resident Evil 5 and 6 are definitely very scary. You know what I mean? Doom 3 can be really scary. Doom 4 can be fucking scary. You know what I mean? Like, it's not saying those games can't be just because there's more action in them than not, but... And it's funny, too, because I really like Silent Hill. Probably has just as much action in it as Resident Evil. I know some of those Silent Hill fans will try to say differently, but you kill just as many creatures in that game as you do in anything else.
Well, as Resident Evil went on, I think in some aspect, even though it's kind of over the top, I think it started to take itself more seriously, because there was there was the original stuff, and apparently I don't know how true it is, but you could tell me maybe, like, it was meant to be a little intentionally cheesy, like you're almost a Jill sandwich, like that kind of thing, or maybe that was just like.
I think that was just cheap. I think that was in the olden days. Americans just did not give a flying fuck about some jappy game. They just wanted the fucking money for it. I think that's what it was. So they're like, shit, well, who's the cheapest actors we can get in here? I think that's what happened in those days, like House of the Dead and so on. And I know nowadays it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of a classic thing to have the sort of the cheesy dialogue, but I don't think that was intentional. I think that was literally like they didn't give a flying fuck. Kind of like Konami. Konami, like in their old days, are like, we don't give a fuck. We just write whatever we want story-wise in the fucking booklet. It's just some Japanese person. Who the fuck cares what his dreams and goals are in life? So I think people were just kind of assholes in America. But, well, people are always assholes in America. But back in the day, I think just video game companies, it was just like, they're fucking kids. They're retarded. They probably can't even read the manual. Who cares what the story is? You know what I mean?
There's the one guy who says, well, I got a story. I don't give a fuck. You can put it in there, though. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, shit. You get 2 paragraphs. That's it.
Make it fucking count! No, but there's, by the time I got to Resident Evil 4, maybe you can clarify. Resident Evil 4, that's where I think the bridging started happening. That's where you started having quick time events. It also had it was a little bit more cooler, a little bit more stylish when you're going with the one dude who, the mercenary guy who's like, it's been a long time, Leon. Like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. Well, it started to have an almost like very like stylish movie, which, you know, in Japan, that's a popular thing. I mean, no different than like Metal Gear Solid, Twin Snakes, and so on. You kind of started getting that.
That was literally made, all the scenes in that were actually literally directed by one of their biggest directors at the time, the guy who made Versus, which is literally the Japanese, like, let's go out in the woods and film some shit. What do you got? Well, we got some zombie makeup, some swords, and some guns. Oh, we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Dude, can you act like a frog? Okay, cool. Work with that.
But yeah, so there's all kinds of cool stuff like that. And, you know, so I mean, I kind of get where it goes. And my only thing of Resident Evil, I'll use this as kind of a wrap-up thing since we're getting late on this, but is that I would like to see them, and I think this is it. I kind of came to the conclusion. I think Silent Hill, like, I love all the Resident Evils, don't get me wrong, but I think Silent Hill is the one that kind of almost, like, slightly put Resident Evil into the direction it went, which I know most people be like, what? How the fuck does that make sense? Because the thing is after Silent Hill, that's when Resident Evil started going away from having, like, it's a zombie, or it's a zombie dog, or a zombie spider, or a zombie shark, and so on, to having, like, way more monster stuff. Because even in Resident Evil 4, like, Resident Evil 4 has a lot of Silent Hill influence in that game. There's a lot of things going on that kind of feel like, oh, that kind of came from there. And even Resident Evil 5 and 6, they start going farther and farther into having just the weird monster that's just, like, is fucking distorted as can be. But what I would like to see is, that's what I love about Resident Evil 1 so much, is I like the fact that there's not really, like, monsters in the game too much. It's mostly like, oh, it's a zombie, or, oh, here's a fucking shark that's infected, or here's a spider that's infected, or a plant. Like, I think that is actually kind of cool, or like these bioorganic kind of creatures that have been infected or tested on technically, and that's what you have to fight off. And I don't know, it's like video games kind of get farther and farther away from shooting animals and things like that, but I always think, like, animals make for cool enemies in it. That's what I think made Tomb Raider such an awesome game, so I think makes the original Resident Evil so cool, and that's what I think makes even games like Dino Crisis and stuff like that. Like, there's something about like man versus animal that you almost don't see that often in games, but that's almost like scarier than like a human or a mutated like zombie human thing with a machine gun in his hand, you know?
Yeah. I think you're right on that. That right there, because I didn't even think about that right there, but there is a point where it did go from like just zombies and zombified animals to this weird, creepy looking like monstrosity with 8 arms, like bunch of fangs and jagged just like spikes sticking out of it, and just like will like rip you apart. And that sounds more like something you would see like in Silent Hill or some Japanese, like you can't even tell, like, what the fuck is that? Where, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. Just to me, it's like, I just think that like fucking just like a regular shark coming after you is already scary enough. Like, why? I don't need these fucking monstrosities. And at first, like in Resident Evil, they used to be just like bosses. That was like a boss. It was like, oh fuck, look at that weird creature. But I think it's like as time went on, that became the majority of the enemies, and even the zombies kind of got phased out in favor for these monsters themselves. But it's kind of like, that's what I'd like to see, is more like, is less like, just go back to almost like simple, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think simple creatures almost is cooler than these like complex like artistic ones.
I want to say, wasn't there a thing in Resident Evil 4 like if you can go and technically face that big salamander monster early, but it actually, because what would happen? Like you would try to, could it be you couldn't go anywhere because you needed the something to unlock the boat? Because I remember there's a thing, if you went onto the deck and you threw enough grenades into the water, the thing would jump out and just kill you.
Oh, you mean the one where you have to go on the boat and spear it? I didn't even know you could go out there and just start chucking grenades in that water.
I want to say I heard something, if you go out onto the dock and you throw 3 grenades or shoot out into the water, it just flies out and just munches you. I don't know if you can get away in time or not, but yeah.
Huh, yeah, I never knew about that one, if that's the case. That sounds kind of cool. Just those small things always in life
the master has become the student.
Yeah, there's just some things like that, but well, other than that, though, maybe we'll continue on our next podcast. If we don't do our movie one yet, we can continue on more survival horror
Maybe
stuff.
we'll have a guest, maybe we won't. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they'll probably be too busy for our schedule, so we'll just go from there. But till then, this is Old Man Orange Podcast, and I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange Podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. Won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week to Old Man Orange.